Hey friends, my name's Taylor Lind. I'm the youth pastor at Salem First Christian Church, and I'm really excited to get to talk to you today from my spare room for hopefully the last time. Next week, we are back to youth group in person. If you're somebody who doesn't feel comfortable doing that yet, don't worry, we're going to still have some online options for you. But next Thursday, the 25th, we're looking to be back to normal, somewhat normal youth group with some changes. We're going to ask you to wear face coverings. We're going to ask you to stay 6 feet apart. But it's going to be awesome. We're going to have some super fun games, some great snacks, great time together. I wanted to chat today about this transition. I wanted to chat today about the last 12, 13 weeks of being closed down and this really interesting section in the Bible, and it's in book of Ecclesiastes. That's in the Old Testament. And Ecclesiastes starts out with the writer talking about feeling like everything is meaningless. The sections go, everything is meaningless, wisdom is meaningless, pleasures are meaningless, wisdom and folly are meaningless, toil is meaningless. Right? This author really just goes in hard on this idea that these things are all meaningless. Like, he's not having a good time with all these things. And maybe you felt a lot like that. Maybe you felt like everything right now, it just seems so meaningless. Like school felt meaningless. Like the work you were doing felt meaningless. But then he says this. He says in chapter 3, a time for everything. He says there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. Right? He says that every activity under the sun has a time, and that God is going to use those activities. He goes on to say, God has laid those out for men, and that he has made everything beautiful in its own time. So maybe for you, this last 12 weeks has been a time of growing. Maybe you've used it to grow towards something beautiful. That's awesome. But maybe it's just been a time of healing or rest or confusion or all these other things he talks about, right? A time to uproot. Maybe it's been a time for something new, a time to throw away. Maybe you've been getting rid of things. Maybe it's been a time just to be silent, a time to love, a time to tear things down that you've built up, or a time to build up new things. However you feel like these last 12 weeks have been, if you've put serious effort into some of those things, they weren't wasted. See, there's a time for everything under the heavens, the Bible says, right? It says that God has made everything beautiful in its own time. And in a weird way, as much as I've hated this quarantine, there's also been some beautiful things that have come of it. And guess what? We're moving into something new and weird and crazy the next week when we start meeting back in person. I've never done youth group where we had to wear face coverings and stay 6 feet apart. Neither have you. It's something new, it's something hard, it's something difficult. But it's a season. It's a time. It's just for a time. And God is going to make that time beautiful. And I believe that we can choose that in this season that we just came from and in this next season of transition, that we can choose to find the beauty in it. that we can choose to find the beauty in what God is doing. So here's my challenge for you. I want you to think back to the last 12 weeks. What has it been a time of? Go through Ecclesiastes 3 if you want, and look at the different things. What has it been a time of? Has it been a time to plant, or a time to uproot, a time to kill, or a time to heal, time to tear down, time to build? What has it been a time of for you? And moving forward, what does it look like to find the beauty in the time that God has placed in front of us? If you're not following us on Instagram, you should. Links in the description below. Thursday night youth group this week is on Zoom. You can find a link for that as well. And parents, guardians, we love you. Thank you for sticking through this with us. And we have a parent guide below as well for you. Next week, back to youth group, Salem First Christian Church, 6:45 to 8:30. Please wear a face covering, and we will see you guys then. Love you.